So guys, we are in Anaheim, California, and last weekend, if you got to see what we're here for, we got to participate in the first round of the 2022 season State Super Trucks. Pretty awesome to see young Max Gordon, who I've been around him since he's been 5, to see him grow up and battle with his dad and all the way to the last corner, the last 2 laps, battle with his dad, and end up winning Long Beach Grand Prix in front of I think one of the biggest crowds since before COVID, 138,000 people here. So if you got to see that race 1 was spectacular. Race 2 was even better because we had a crash at the finish. That was pretty spectacular. And I'll leave that to your imagination, how we got out of the car and crawled to the finish line. But State Super Trucks at Long Beach was a pretty amazing weekend. I think there's a slide in here later we'll show you. But I think what most people want to learn this weekend is we started production. What have we produced? What does that mean? And what are we doing? So I have some slides here. Oh, go back. Just go back, just to show you. There's Max at Long Beach. You know, those cars are hitting that jump too up. It goes too wide, and I don't know, 150 to 170 feet. They're hitting the jumps at 80 to 90 miles an hour. It's pretty spectacular. As you can see, they're above the fencing, and it's a testament to what we've built over the years and what Robbie's been able to design and bring to market. And I think you're going to get to see that here shortly with what we're doing. So I'll just skip aside, and I'll show you about what we're doing. So everyone, as I read the social media, it appears that most of the people on our social media actually know how to manufacture because we're getting tons of advice. We're learning a lot from what they think should be happening, what can be happening. I'll just tell you what we're learning, because this is a first time for us to take not just a part to production, but a whole 28,000 plus parts turning into a car. So in production, you have assemblies. So this is one of our assembly lines. This is, as you can see, these are all of the fixtures. These are, I believe, the fixtures to make suspension components, our arms. Engine, sorry.
It's on your engine facility?
Even with a robotic arm?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this is actually one of the engine fixtures. Oh, actually, yeah, you can see one of the engines in the back. So first you do is you go and you design all the parts. Then you vet all the parts. There's all the stuff we've done the last 2 years that you get to see. And now you sort of test all those parts, retest the changes in those parts. And now we start setting up the assembly line, all the fixtures, all the fixture tables, all that has to be done, because in this car there's assemblies. So an engine is an assembly, but actually in the engine there's sub-assemblies. If you have suspension components, there's suspension components and there's sub-assemblies, and then there's fixtures for the welding. So you have all these weld fixtures that have to be done. So as we progress, you'll see, go to another slide, Connor, you get to see the different pieces of our production line and all the different fixture tables and pieces that are being made are in place to actually take the different pieces that we're now building in-house and turning them into finished goods. And eventually those finished goods become an assembled vehicle. So these are just more pictures of what we're doing. This week I'm showing you mostly engine and clutches that we've been manufacturing. So
yeah, perfect. This is where we connect the gearbox.
So go back 1 slide, Connor. So these are the fixtures that had to be made to connect engine and gearbox together. If you go back another slide, go forward a slide. Sorry, Connor. This is that exact same fixture that was in that picture, and you can see engine and gearbox connected. So that's us taking 2 different assemblies and made them together in one fixture. This goes down this whole assembly line, and you'll see different components. You can go another slide, Connor. Keep getting attached. This is one of the robotic welders. I'm going to be honest, I don't know what it does in this.
Robotic tool.
Oh, it's a tool. So it's actually bolting things together for us. These are all the different pieces that you see this whole assembly line. You can see all the engines down here that keep coming, and we continue to bolt things together. And then eventually, those engines, I think the next slide will be the trays. Actually, these are all the counterbalances that are in our engines. So you have to actually build all the engines up. Counterbalances, if you guys are familiar with our engine fires 2 pistons go at the same time. So to balance that, we actually have to have opposing counterbalances. It's almost like having 3 cranks in our motors to be able to balance 2 pistons going up versus opposing pistons going up and down. Now you can see here's all the cranks, here's all the counterbalances and cranks, here's all more of our turbos and our intake manifolds. So all these pieces that you guys keep asking, where is the inventory, where is it done? These are all the pieces we had to go make to then now start putting together on the assembly line. So taking all those raw materials that are finished, became finished goods, turning them into assembled pieces to turn them into final assemblies of an engine, an intake manifold, a turbo, a transmission. We keep moving along. I don't know what next slide is, I guess. These are all the Robbie Phillies plenums.
Intake plenum.
Intake plenums that hold our throttle bodies. And these just all the different pieces. They come down the assembly line, it gets picked by a robot or a hand, and little by little it keeps getting assembled. You go to another slide, Connor.
And the clutches is in the engine area because it is part of the engine gearbox sub-assembly that goes in the car as one unit.
Right, so
I think there's another picture with some of that.
all our clutches come down the line, but as we showed you before, the gearbox is being mated to the motor, and we actually then at the exact same time mate primary driven clutch to the gearbox. And go to another slide, Connor. And that would be almost all. Actually, is that?
This is development.
That was actually, I think that's just a
No, that's a test motor.
Test motor
that the motors get run before they get put in the car.
So we have to log so many miles of break-in before we get in. And
No,
just
these
run.
are just break in before
Yeah.
a motor goes in car. Yeah.
So that's the final piece before we put it in a chassis. So little by little each week we'll show you the different phases that we are in, taking finished goods to become finished assemblies and eventually get bolted into the cars. Those cars, because here's the next question, if we do all these cars, what are we doing with all these cars? Well, then we have to test our assembly line. Did we, as we got grief in September because there was a bolt that was welded into the chassis, right, that someone gave us grief on. What we do then is examine all the different things. Did we put blue Loctite on a certain thing? Did we have the right torque spec on an axle nut? Did we put a cotter pin in? So we actually have to inspect and put all our standards in place for quality control. And the first round of cars is the ability to build them, then tear them down, pieces from each one. We'll do different inspections of, then build them back up and make sure that nothing was missed. So we'll take, if we build 50 motors, we're gonna, I'm guessing, but maybe we're gonna pull 3 motors randomly and identify are they good. If we build 50 suspension kits and they get bolted on the car. So little by little you build a quality control, so then you can have an allocation as you go forward to make sure your deliverable is consistent across the road.
Yeah, I got chasing the dream here. So why do you need to break in a car if they do it? No, we just make sure that the engine doesn't have leaks, and they get a random check as we roll through this process. So the engines still have to be broke in. These are just checking for functional leaks, and we do it randomly off the assembly line.
Actually, if there's any questions, Rob, it's not a bad place to ask them. We can answer a few more, and if you want to get up and answer a few, but that's just what we're doing, guys. We're going to keep putting it down each week as we can show you more information on what we're doing. The other thing we're doing right now is there's been a lot of consumers that have bought from dealers, so we are now starting to visit dealers. We're at Coin and Banning. We're going to Burt's Mega Mall tomorrow, just to have people who haven't fit in their seat, haven't seen the car in person, who's trusted us through the process. We're finally getting out. And what's unique is, as I was asked this, why we've taken a car that we've been testing and beating on and putting it in front of everyone. Obviously, they're not beautiful, they're not polished. They're cars, though. If you got to drive your Polaris Can-Am, pick one over the years, and you put 3,000-4,000 miles on it, there's an expectation or a disappointment of what that car is. It's pretty neat to take you a car that we have driven the wheels off a few times and put it in front of you and show how stout it is, how it's still, outside of its cosmetic scratches from being in the desert so much, it's still a very tight and new car. And that's part of what we want to do here. We wanted to make sure people got to see and experience everything we did down this process. So I hope what you're getting to learn every week is as educational as we get to learn every week. We're spending a ton of time in California right now doing dealer visits, final things through our production and planning, how we're going to actually distribute products through Havasu, through dealers, how our trucking is going to happen right now, building on our warranty models. And unfortunately, I sit in meetings all day with Rob, but it's what we have to do to eventually get you guys the car, and we'll keep you abreast of everything we're doing. So unless you have another question, Rob, I think that's what I got.
No, I know. We can flick back through these, and I can comment a little bit and maybe answer some of these questions. But Todd,
You want me to hold yours?
yeah, thanks for. You want to hold mine too? All right, go for it. They say,
Have a
it's
great
hard,
weekend.
say it's hard to hear, but we'll kind of bounce through this thing just a little bit. I know Todd did a good job walking through it, but there's different assembly carts that roll into the position for the production line, and This is part of the clutch, and if you look over here, I can see the secondary clutch is down on that level, primary clutches are up on the top, and there's racks and racks and racks of these. And then they get put onto the whole cart or the whole assembly as it rolls off into the car. So the motor and gearbox becomes one big unit with its plumbing, and even the wiring, the way we've been working to make it easy to plug in and plug out. The wiring harness for the engine is a simple unplug the harness and yank everything out at one time. It comes out like the front bulkhead diff comes off, the transmission comes off the back with all of its assemblies, muffler, transmission hanger, water intercooler, plumbing, all the other things come along with it. If we can flick through a couple other things, these other pictures, these are the intakes, and these intakes obviously have to be precise, and the fitment has to be good, and that has been part of the process. The original pre-production, they had gaps, they had steps, stuff like that. If you have a step going downhill, that's okay, but if you have a rise on the way down, it'll totally disrupt the airflow. And where we're pretty happy is now we kind of know where we're at with our competition versus engines on engine dynos, chassis dynos. And our production engine with the same boost as a Polaris Pro R is, maybe 40 horsepower more, which means we've optimized every little aspect of every single thing to make more power. So guys done a good job. Obviously all the turbo stuff's been really, really good, really smooth, but it's all the steps, all the ports. It's really taking a production car and making it like a race car straight from production. You don't have to get in there and polish all the parts. Everything's been done. The castings are absolutely beautiful, and it's what we strive for. And we have sent a lot of stuff back from what you guys saw at our pre-production cars, and had our suppliers make better parts, nicer parts, smoother parts, just to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's on everything. You can flick another page there. These are harmonic balancers. There's two balance shafts on each side of the crank. It's kind of odd and different, but it allows the engine. I don't know if you've ever watched that Lexus commercial where you can put the glass bottle on top of it, and the wine is just perfectly smooth. This has been part of that process, because if we can make the engine not vibrate, not be rough, it'll be a lot easier on all the parts and all the fitment on the car as well. Assembly line, let's go back to the assembly line picture. This one here is pretty good. So these are our robots in the assembly line that come in and do and grab certain things that make it easier and more precise. So the heads on them have the torques. That potentially could be the one that tightens all the head bolts and torques all the head bolts, or torques the crank bolts in sequence. When you get your speed UTV, you'll see that the motor has the torque sequence casted into the block. We've really tried to do a lot of things to make the maintenance in the future more precise and more top level, what you would see at any proper engine shop. But we're building high performance engines, not just an engine that runs. And this is probably one of the coolest things. It's not just building a car, it's building an assembly line and building tooling. And when you download these pictures, you can zoom in and look at the quality of our tooling and the process it's taken just to be able to make an engine. And we started this project back at Sandsports. We thought we had to deal with an engine supplier. Okay, we had a deal in place. Went and met with them after. They told us how many engines they could do. Well, imagine now if we would have done that deal, sold the amount of cars we sold, and then have to now go complete against the new Polaris Pro R 4-cylinder. Our engine's lighter, makes more torque, and makes more power than their 4-cylinder engine. Gearbox, sequential. This stuff is awesome. I mean, when I'm zooming in and looking at this, it is top level. This is the stuff you would see at TRD, or you'd see this at Mercedes engine. This is very, very, very top level, high performance engine facility. And this is made to spit motors off. This is all All this tooling is just for the speed UTV. So if you look down the line, there's probably 15 stations there that the engine will roll through. And remember, if we're gonna build a car every 20 minutes, that means we gotta build an engine every 20 minutes. And what that means is one comes off the line every 20 minutes. Because I get ripped on, how are you gonna build a car in 20 minutes? Well, that car may take 5 hours or 10 hours by the time it goes all the way down the assembly line. But one has to drop off every 20 minutes to keep up with demand. So this has been a major undertaking. And yes, I have lost a lot of hair. It's gone gray. But we've also, as a team, have learned a tremendous amount. We got a lot of respect for the other manufacturers out there, and we just did it different. We didn't leave any stone unturned from tires, wheels, shocks, seats, seat belts, engines, CVT belts, CVT intakes, the bed in the back, opening tailgates, spare tire holder with low center of gravity. Just every single thing you can think of. It has been in my brain for the last 7 years, and the last 2 years it's been nonstop. It's 18 hours a day, every single day, and I wouldn't be able to do it without the great team that we have built, assembled around us. So I want to thank all of our suppliers. I want to thank, well, first, all of our customers for believing in us. I do appreciate you guys stepping up when we said we were going to do this and making a pre-order and believing that we would build the best product in the business. Our suppliers, everybody that we push every single day to get this project done. I mean, we're pushing a lot of buttons. It's a lot of phone calls, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that when they see my phone number ring, it's like, shit, I don't want to answer this. And they know what's coming, and it's, how can you help me improve the timeline? How can we get stuff faster? What can we do to be better? Or how do we solve that problem that we learned today? Because we have come across a lot of those as well. So that's about it for this week. You're not going to see a lot of stuff because production has started. Development never sleeps. Daniel was out doing other stuff, has nothing to do with production, just stuff for reliability, and the whole team across the board is on it. They're pin it to win it. So have a good night. We'll see you here next week, hopefully. Sorry about last week. Long Beach came up. Between all the stuff we have going on in Long Beach, there just isn't any time. Peace out.